Some little children, I'm in the sea of the dust, really admire them. Smallness is still on their mind. Smallness is a good time. Remember some little children, I'm in the sea of the dust, really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bag. A seafood mama. Get 10 fat chickens. And ask you for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she muggle like a chow. Oh, smallest is still on my mind. Smallest is a good time. Never some little children. I'm gonna sing and dance and really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like roses, all you need, bright and shining. You must be, and show me the one. Love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girl, second the boys. Sunday, Monday, afternoon. We will spend the honeymoon. Oh, smallest is still on my mind. Smallest is a good time. Never some little children. I'm gonna sing and dance and really admire them. Join the singing. Hold my house on fire. The old man ran away. He called the police to get the water. The ugly fire down there. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Never some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing? Children, children. Yes. Smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Remember some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Remember some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bag. A seafood mama. Get 10 fat chickens. And ask you for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat and she muggle like a chow. Oh, smallest is still on my mind. Smallest is a good time. Never some little children. I'm gonna sing and dance and really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like roses, all you need, bright and shining. You must be, and show me the one. Love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girl, second the boys. Sunday, Monday, afternoon. We will spend the honeymoon. Oh, smallness is still on my mind. Smallness is a good time. Never some little children. I'm gonna sing and the dancers really admire them. Join the singing. Old man house on fire. The old man ran away. He ran for the police to get the water. The ugly fire down there. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, Small days is still on their mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing, children, children. Yes, mama. Where you been? Grandmama. What she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine?
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you, so call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
Small days is still on their mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Small days is still on their mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really.
Well, good evening and welcome to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. My name is Mark Benschop. We're going to rock and roll just for about an hour, which means by 10 o'clock we should be off. If it gets sweet, it simply means we're going to go the distance. All right, so share the link. We're not going to ask you guys to do that again. As you know what we do here on 107.1 FM, let me see if you guys know me that much by now, is that we don't beg you guys to share the link more than once. We just ask you to share the link and we're done with that. We don't repeat it during the course of this program at all. So you're not going to hear me saying, share the link, share the link, share the link. But we do ask you guys to kindly, please share the link. But we only say it once. That's all, just once during the course of the program. The start of the program, we just ask you to share the link. We don't beg you. And we don't say too often, just once. Share the link. So I'm just repeating what I said before to prove to you that that's all we do. We just say it once. Good evening to all of you, and especially those beautiful people in apartheid Guyana under the PPP regime. We've got to keep saying that because that is exactly what it is. Apartheid Guyana under the PPP regime. Every day we hear about folks having their lands taken away, grabbing, snatching from them by the PPP regime, snatching their lands. They're saying to persons of African descent that you don't have a right to own any land, that you can't own anything at all. But at some point in time, as veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis said last evening, if got to stand up. We've got to fight. And we've got to fight them back. Good. That's all. That's all we wish to say in that aspect of the introduction. But good evening to all of you, beautiful people, wherever you are, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Russia, wherever you are. Good evening to all of you. Speaking of Russia, good evening, Privet Kagdila, to all the Russians who some may be listening in Moscow. They're mourning the death of the former president, Mikhail Gorbachev. Let me see how many of you remember Mikhail Gorbachev and what he has done in terms of the Soviet bloc. Some of us were young then, not necessarily younger, but we were young then. And we heard of Mikhail Gorbachev and the breaking up of the Soviet bloc and the Soviet Union, that is the USSR. And then at that time, it was the Cold War era. And I do believe that during that time, this guy who is there now as the president, Vladimir Putin, was the head of the KGB. And some of you who don't know what the KGB stands for, it's the equivalent of the Secret Service, CIA. But in Guyana, if we want to go lower down the bar, it is special branch where they trail you with bicycle and motorcycles, and they are in the open. They're obvious. They are supposed to be special branch people. They're supposed to operate clandestine. But guess what? When you are driving, this is how these guys are comics. Most of them, not all of them, mind you. You're driving, they're trailing you. You stop, they stop a block away. They don't think that you have rear view mirrors, right? That you can see them. Well, for me, I look around. I know who is who. I know where they are. And I know if I stop at a shop to grab a beer, that's all I grab. Nothing else. I'm not a Trump. I don't grab anything else. And so with that now, they stop half a block. They peep at me. So I drink my beer. I move off. And then they hop on their bike and they drive off too. So when I stop again, they stop. But of course, I don't stop anywhere else. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not like a Bishop Edgell and them make a quick stop in Linden. Quick stop, a very, very quick stop, because that's all they probably can do. Quick stop and run. That's not me. So when sorry, I was just being a little bit naughty there, right? If some of you are pastors out there, please pray for me. Okay, so I'm just making the point in how the special branch is compared to the Secret Service, CIA in the United States. You hardly know that somebody's an operative of the Secret Service, Central Intelligence Agency in the U.S. You hardly know. You can be with someone in the same home and you wouldn't even know that. You can be working with someone somewhere else and you wouldn't even know that. But in Guyana, you got to know. It's pretty obvious. You see when they're going in the building and you see when they're coming out of the building. You see when they're trailing you. Oh, gosh. So, yeah, getting back to Russia and the death of Mikhail Gorbachev, the breaking up of the Soviet Union, the blocs and all these blocs, the Soviet blocs, mind you, not bloc. But something like those guys in Guyana, right? Irfan Ali, they can't pronounce words. One particular guy who sits there as the Attorney General, he can't even pronounce the country Kenya. He said Kenya. Holy smoke. And God just come down on Guyana and wash away the evil spells on that country. Let's put our hands and just pray for that country. Okay, so Mikhail Gorbachev passed away, right? Passed away. And that guy, Vladimir Putin actually said, actually said, hey, he's not going to the funeral because he's too busy. We all know why. He's not going to go. He's pissed off. He's trying to get back those countries that were split up during the breaking up of the Soviet Union and all manner of things. So he's pissed off at Gorbachev. And he's basically saying to Gorbachev, just go in peace. I'm too busy to even see you or to have you have a proper send-off. the mindset of some individuals, right? The mindset of some individuals. Good evening again to all of you, and welcome to not the Soviet Union, but welcome to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. We got to go to Burbies. I've asked our executive producer to get in touch with J.R. Crawford. And we were told that J.R. Crawford has to get dressed. He has to do all sort of things, comb up his hair, probably put little coconut oil in his head, all manner of things. But we will get to Mr. Crawford in just a few minutes or so. But let's look at this. When this guy, see how he's making his lips, his mouth. Oh, sorry, that's another story. I don't know. I always try to get, I don't know. You guys got to pray for me, but it's just how he's making his lip, his mouth, and God in heaven knows who he was looking at there. I can almost put my head on the block that he was probably looking at tall 6-footer Christopher Jones right there, and just wish that he could just go right now and sit in Christopher Jones' barber chair. Good evening, Christopher. Okay, so here is what this guy, Bharat Jagdeo, when they were in the opposition, and for me, they're still in the opposition because them ain't win nothing. Them ain't win no election, nothing. They're in there through fraud. That's it. Unless they can prove otherwise. I am saying without any apologies that the PPP regime is in office as a result of fraud. So this is what he said just before they were installed. In his voice, give public servants 50% increase. Give public servants 50% increase, right? Give public servants 50% increase. So now they're in office, and they don't give a damn about the public servants. They just don't. And so every single thing these Pakus have said when they were in the opposition, they just didn't mean it. They didn't mean that they are going to return to, free education, as Anil would say, free education. They didn't mean it. 50,000 jobs. They didn't mean it. All the things that they have campaigned on, they just didn't mean it. Bunch of fraudsters getting into office. Oh, so it appears that they're just political fraudsters, mind you. Appearance, that's the perception, mind you. Some of them have been charged. They have not been convicted. So they're not outright fraudsters. We can just say the perception is that they are political gangsters, that they are political fraudsters. That's what the perception is all about. So look at this here now. Out of office, they believe that public servants deserve 50%. Now they're in office, public servants doesn't worth 3%, not even 5% they want to give the public servants. So you see the lies. You see what they're about, right? Lies, lies, lies. A bunch of lying vagabonds. That's who they are. That's what they're about. Share the link, please, because maybe some folks thought I wasn't going to be on tonight, right? But I've got to be on with you guys. Lots of things happening. We're not going to shy away from the issues at all. We are going to be dealing with real issues that they want to keep off the burner, so to speak. For example, I was about to say Deion Sanders. That's the American football legend, Deion Sanders. But I was actually talking about Deion Bascom. We're not getting this story. It's not getting off our burner at all. There got to be investigations. People have to be investigated. People have to be interrogated. And if possible, charged. So far, we're not hearing that this guy, the murder suspect, Mark Richmond, has surrendered to the police or even arrested by the police. We're not seeing that. We're not hearing that at all. All we're seeing and hearing is that they jumped and they rushed to sue Mr. Bascom, Sergeant Bascom, just to cover up a whole set of allegations leveled against this guy and his boss. Yes, his boss. There he goes. Azardine Mohammed, that guy, that so-called prominent businessman in Guyana, right? That prominent businessman in Guyana, rushing to sue the policeman who was part of an investigation. Obviously, a murder probe. Yep, this guy, Bascom, was part of that probe. Bascom has said what he had to say, and they rushed to sue Bascom. $200 million. You're right. You're right. They're not going to get a cent, not a dry cent from this guy Bascom. I don't want to see which judge is going to entertain that crappy lawsuit of $200 million. Give me a goddamn break. Just walk into the police station and be investigated. If you're uncomfortable, if you want to prove yourself, and not just walk into the police station, walk into the U.S. Embassy too, man. Do something. Tell them that you're innocent of every single thing. I don't know. I just don't know. Just tell him you're innocent. Do like what the other guy did. The other guy said he's innocent, and he wants to prove him. You guys do the same, man. That's all I wish to say on that, right? Because we have other things to talk about. And even while we're talking about that, this car, whoever this car belongs to, is still sitting somewhere out in Miami. Still sitting there, can't get into the country, can't get into Guyana for obvious reasons, right? Can't get into Guyana at all, right? Anyways, let's drive away from that car for a moment, because it appears that it's going to be sitting there for a while, because whoever is shipping it in can't prove the legitimacy of their income. Oops. Got to be quiet on that, because the other thing that folks have been asking about, not about the car, but they've been asking about who is the senior police officer that has filed for asylum in the United States of America. Who is that police officer? Who? If you guys want me to give the name of that police officer tonight, let me see your comment. If you want me to give the name, reveal who that senior police officer is, I will look at your comments, and then I'll decide whether to give the name or not. But let me see. I want to go with a poll. I want you guys to actually tell me what exactly you guys want, right? Should I give the name of that officer, or should I not? I'll take a quick break because we've got to get J.R. Crawford on with us. I'm told he's ready. He has on his nice short jack, his Coconut Island is here, and all manner of things. But we've got to get Mr. J.R. Crawford, my good friend for over 40 years. I almost beat him when we were little kids, but we'll be right back with J.R.
Source. Okay, well, maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
So my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place. Yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes. Yes. He is a friend of ours. His father was here from.
Give us a break. His friend was here. His father was here. Their friend. They're all manner of things. And we have a good friend of mine, not the kind of friend that Sue and Jack Dale are. We don't do, according to Sue, those sort of jiggery pokery transactions. We don't. Hey, JR, how are you doing?
Good night. I'm okay so far.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I know you accepted our invitation at such a last minute. And it's always a pleasure to have you on with us. Let's get straight down to business. We don't want to know how you're doing. We know you're doing great, even under the circumstances, especially there on the quarantine. But why do you suppose that we are hardly hearing anything, if at all anything, about this Sue situation and Jack Dale and the high level of corruption and all manner of things? We're not hearing anything about that. Why? And what's happening? But before you do, sir, before you answer that question, let me just say that this is former Foreign Affairs Minister and this was probably one of the best Foreign Affairs Ministers we've had in the country, that is now described as apartheid Guyana under the PPP regime. Rashley Jackson, Mr. Rashley Jackson, we are told, mind you, based on information, he has passed away. Rashley Jackson has passed away, according to information. Former Foreign Affairs Minister under the People's National Congress government, one of the best we have had. Foreign Affairs Minister, nothing compared to what we have seen in recent times, especially under the Kunumunu PPP government. So once our source is accurate, I have no reason to doubt that. Let's extend condolences to Mr. Rashley Jackson's family, his friends, his colleagues, and let's also extend condolences to the People's National Congress reform on the passing of a stalwart, a real stalwart. Mr. Crawford, good evening. Unless you want to say something, I know Mr. Rashley Jackson was also a good friend of your late father, Senior Counsel Marcel Crawford.
Well, what I would say to him, he was a distinguished individual and one of the few politicians that didn't have baggage to question. And, you know, we certainly going to miss the experience and the knowledge that he had. And I hope some of the younger politicians was able to observe some of those things that he had to educate us on.
Absolutely. And I recall that not so long ago, it was sometimes it just hurts me to say Freddie Kissoon actually wanted to challenge this guy intellectually and otherwise. And this guy just 2 words put Freddie Kissoon in his place. 2 words and that's it. Look, I hold no brief, nothing at all for Kit Nascimento, but I saw a clip floating around where Freddie Kissoon wanted to get some sort of negative thing out of Kit Nascimento about Burnham. And man, Kit Nascimento responded to that question with real class and put Freddie in his place. And that's where you saw the difference with someone who's actually educated and someone who tries to sound educated. There's a big difference, a big difference. I don't have much in common with with a Kit Nascimento or whatever, but I just like that. I like his response to Freddie Kissoon on that Tin and Cup program that they have. And I repeat, Tin and Cup program that they have. Now let's get straight to the to your response to my question. But again, for those of you who are wondering, why is it that Mr. Rashley Jackson is on the screen? We just heard, we got news that Mr. Rashley Jackson has passed away today. So our condolences to the family members, relatives, and friends of the Honorable Rashley Jackson, former Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. That's when we were Guyana and not now apartheid Guyana. Go ahead, Mr. Crawford. Sue is out of the news. Jack Davis not focused much on Sue. The press over in Guyana, they're basically depressed when it comes to the Sue issue. We're not hearing anything about that, no investigations. Jack Davis said he welcomed an investigation. Irfan Ali said there will be an investigation, and then that's the end of it. You take a bite at that, sir, please.
Look, the opposition should have been hammering at this issue on a weekly basis. We are not seeing, that out there from them. The opposition needs to assemble a proper PR team that to keep their supporters up to date and to have issues brought out there to the public so, the public can have an idea of what is going on, or to magnify a wrong that's being done. These are things that you want to know why the opposition is so slothful in their approach. I can't understand for the life of me why the PNC seems to always be playing catch up and being a defensive political party. As for the Americans with this Sue-gate, we know how they operate. They don't rush to do something. When they do make a move, it's something concrete. As compared to our policing in this country, where we rush to go grab somebody, we don't have any proper evidence, and we look like fools, or we brutalize somebody and we feel good about it, even though we don't have the necessary basis. So I'm hoping that the coalition as a whole, not just the PNC, but they need to come together and have these combined press conference, and where issues are not allowed to be buried. And that is one of the reasons why our support base is going, haywire, and we are not paying attention to it. And that's a dangerous trend.
Dangerous indeed. Sorry about that. Dangerous indeed. But the Sioux Gate, back to the Sioux Gate. I know that you probably wanted to get that out of your digestive system, but the Sioux Gate, the fact that there is no investigations, that level of corruption, and Guyanese people seem not to be able to, especially our reporter and quote unquote journalists there, not, they're not on top of these things at all. They're just not on top of these things at all. And yet Jack Dale goes around now talking about investigating other individuals and organizations and these sort of things. Again, are you surprised that there's no investigations thus far about what Sue has said?
No, I'm not. And when you look at the reporters in this country, they should be the ones that will be fair across the board, and it would help to transform our nation's behavior. But we're not seeing that professionalism from the reporters. Everything in Guyana, it operates on a bias basis, where if I'm buddy to somebody, well, I cannot, print article or reprimand them for a wrong or a hurtful situation, because there will always be a retaliatory action towards speaking the truth. And until we start to shy away from those behaviors, we're not going to start to move forward. And the Sioux Gate, it's something that the Americans have discussed with us, that we as a country need to be inclusive and transparent. That is a big stumbling block in our moving forward as a unified country. So this administration should have gone ahead with whatever findings they have, but get the investigation out of the way. But instead of taking care of this that is hampering us and putting us on a watch list again, we are now looking for COIs on the election petition when there are two of them filed in our courts. So why do we need the courts when we are selectively doing our own investigation that doesn't bring any hope to the nation? And with Sioux Gate, you're looking at forestry, you're looking at infrastructure, you're looking at minerals. It's a wide range of finances that will affect the future of this country. So this is something that should be a priority to our nation. But again, our reporters, they're in a buddy system, so nobody speaks about it. Nobody can print anything because they will not be in the business tomorrow morning. So here we are sitting and taking orders as the owners of a nation from a selective few.
Selected few indeed. 38 minutes after 9 o'clock. If you're now joining us, I'm Mark Benschop. With us this evening is J.R. Crawford. Mr. Crawford, if we go to the lies of the PPP that they're peddling and so forth, I just want to, because I love this particular part. We're the Tin and Cup show, because we don't promote Tin and Cup shows and nonsense and emotion, people and their emotions and all these sort of things. But this was pretty interesting. I want our listeners to hear. I'm not a fan of this guy, Kit Nascimento. He jumps all over with a big bowl, and God in heaven knows. He sued me once because I said he's a soup drinker in Guyana. He sued me for a couple $1 million. He got not 1 cent out of that. because on TV, well, he was at a function and he was drinking soup. And I took a photograph, I took a video of him drinking soup, and I was on Channel 9 saying that Kit Nascimento is a soup drinker, drinking soup. And he sued me for that. So these guys are horrible, you know. But these guys are horrible. But I kind of like his response to Freddie, because Freddie got caught off guard, and right away there you see that Freddie's an intellectual midget, right? So I want our listeners to hear this response that kind of like almost give Freddie headache, big headache, because Freddie didn't like what Nascimento said about Burnham. So please, guys, listen to this.
Mr. Nascimento, your very candid and profound reflection on Forbes Burnham.
Forbes Burnham perhaps had the most powerful intellect of every president we've had so far, if not of every Caribbean leader. He was a profound thinker. He was a Churchillian speaker. He had an elephant-like memory of people and places and information. He had all the makings of a great and powerful leader. He led our country at an extremely difficult time. A time which was totally different to circumstances which challenge our country today. We were a newly independent country. He came into office through the coalition government, in which his coalition partner was my uncle, Peter de Gaar. Peter de Gaar was well right of center. Burnham was well left of center, a difficult coalition to manage. At the time he came in, the economy virtually collapsed. The price of sugar collapsed at that time. And the price of oil from the Middle Eastern cartel went through the roof. Guyana found itself
let me just pause there for a moment for our listeners. This guy Nascimento is going through the history, is actually schooling Freddie Kissoon, giving him a history lesson as to what happened during the Cold War era, the Soviet Union and oil prices and sugar prices and all manner of things that Burnham was able to sail that ship in Guyana and make it stable for everyone. But Freddie doesn't want to buy into that. Freddie is somewhat of myopic kind of thinking kind of guy. He doesn't want to hear that. He wants to say Burnham is bad and people must just listen because he knows that Burnham is bad and that's it. But listen to facts, historical facts, something that Freddie doesn't understand. And his sidekick on the show, Gildari, is always sailing about something, always sailing. Sailors.
Facing an almost impossible economy to manage. Burnham has carried the can for that, I think unfairly. On the other hand, as time grew on, and this is often the case, as I've said with many leaders, he became intolerant of opposition. But one thing I will put my head on the block on, which may surprise many who are listening. Burnham was not a racist. He was not anti-Indian. And he did nothing deliberately.
Okay, I could just imagine Freddie Kissoon's facial expression because I've never watched the show. I've seen clips based on this that people circulate, but I've never watched the show. Freddie boasts and brag that it's the best thing since sliced bread. Give me a break. If that is what you call sliced bread and people gravitate to, well, something is wrong with people and something is wrong with sliced bread. But that particular part too, that Kit Nascimento has said, Burnham wasn't a racist. Freddie doesn't want to hear that. Freddie's bent on his own thinking. But continue. Kit Nascimento.
To hurt Indians. He banned, as an economic activity, many things that the Indians used, and was held responsible for doing so as a racist. I went to India with Burnham.
Before he says, JR, before he said, continue to talk about his trip, Kit Nascimento, before he talks about his trip to India with President Forbes Burnham, the late Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the first executive president, the man under whom, the Constitution was actually formed in 1980, that the PPP views out, call it dictatorial constitution and this and that, is the same constitution they're relying on for every single thing. Those bloody hypocrites. But one quick correction. Burnham didn't ban those items. Those items were restricted as a result of what was happening back then, the Cold War era, oil prices and so forth. And those items that were restricted weren't solely confined to one particular ethnic group that only Indians use dal or flour or whatever. Everybody used dal, everybody used flour, split peas, and all these manner of things. So those were not items that only Indians used in Guyana. Oh man, Kit, get it right. That's the part that was a bit ticklish for me. But hear what happened when
Mark.
Yeah, Mr. Crawford, go ahead, sir.
Before you move on there.
Sure, go ahead.
I listened to the complete thing there.
Yes, sir.
Prior to being on the show. Nascimento made some mistakes in that he said probably Burnham was one of the most intellectual. He was the most intellectual around here in the Caribbean, in Guyana, as a president. He was way ahead of his time. Two, what you just addressed there, Burnham never banned flour. It was the PL-480 tool that was used by the Americans. And that tool was used after Burnham joined the non-alignment movement. And he got blamed to being a dictator and all these things and racist and all these things. When you look back, and I would say it over and over, if Burnham was a dictator and a racist, why did he make sure that we had free education from university, from nursery to university? He never said it was only for Black people. He said for all Guyanese, regardless of whatever group he came from. Two, why would Burnham provide health care? And you could understand back then, all our health centers was well stacked up. Why would a dictator educate his nation?
Let me cut you for a moment. I do remember those health centers. Port Branga Health Center. Lancaster, Liverpool has a health center. Kildonan has a health center. Corriverton, all over. My Bikuri, Blackbush, Polar, somewhere thereabouts, health centers so that pregnant women, and if you're injured and all these manner of things, you can go there so that you can be provided for under Forbes Burnham. And it didn't say just one particular ethnic group of people have access to that. All Guyanese had access to that. Continue, JR. Continue.
And, a dictator doesn't provide these services for the nation. And remember the days of the break and enter. He would send the forces out here and make sure that the known criminals were taken out. So people could be safe in the force.
Let me stick you there for a moment. And back in our days, we know that what we as small boy we heard of was the death squad in the Guyana police force, or special squad, or whatever they call it. They went for several persons. We knew them. Alnis Village, at the back of Alnis Village, there was a guy named Master, originally from Kildonan. The death squad went in, the police squad, not the Phantom squad and these drug squad. The real squads of the police went after these guys because they were said to have been notorious in kicking down doors and so forth. Another guy that they went after was a guy named Lewis. And don't be fooled with the name Lewis. Of course, you know, JR, you're familiar with Lewis.
Right.
Lewis was an Indian brother who was terrorizing people under quarantine. And then there was another guy, I can't remember his name, as Small D. So you are correct that Burnham, under the PNC, tried to nip these things in the bud early o'clock. Early o'clock. Sorry, I'm interjecting you all the time, man. I wouldn't.
No. That's all right.
Go ahead again, my friend. Go ahead.
So these are the things that the PPP party withheld from their supporters, all of these good things that Burnham was doing. And the PPP conveniently forgets to tell their supporters that one of Guyana's best backers internationally was India. And they work hand in hand to help Guyana grow as a young nation.
His best his best friend, one of them was Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who visited Guyana. When he also, I believe she visited Guyana, but he was in India as well. They were friends, they were comrades. So this thing here with the PPP and their dotish bunch of people trying to paint Burnham as though he was a racist, I don't know, for some reason, JR, I don't know why the PNC doesn't fight back and set the record straight. I don't know why Burnham children don't come out and set the record straight. We talk show hosts got to be doing it all the time, man. But go ahead, say something else quickly. Let's get back to Kit Nascimento and what he said when Burnham visited India. Go ahead, sir.
And as just one more point, just to say that he wasn't a racist, was look at Tika Singh, Sis Narayan, the former speaker, Randy Chandy Singh, those who are former PNC people. What Burnham saw,
Sridhar Rampal, Shahabuddin,
right,
and all those individuals that Burnham had around him. Burnham had a man named Ram. Ram used to fetch his water bottle. When Burnham goes into villages, he dances to drum, he go around market, he talk to people, he dance to chutney, he go wedding house, he sing Chadal Kitao Balama, Chodadia, Chagal Kitao Balama. You ever hear Burnham sing them kind of tunes? That was Burnham. But I don't know what Freddie is so obsessed with strapping black men, and even puny black men too, like me. For some reason, he is obsessed with black men. I think I know why. But let's go back.
You see,
before Crawford, what about holidays? What about Pagwa?
Yep.
Right? What about Diwali? All of those are holidays that came into existence under Burnham, under the PNC. Oh.
And he made sure that we all respected each holidays.
Oh.
You know, so these are the disturbing thing that the people of today they're not aware of all of the achievements and all of the efforts to make Guyana a unified country.
Oh, they got to.
And I think the PNC or the coalition, because you can't just tag the PNC with all the burden. All who wants to be in the coalition, they need to start to go out there and educate, you know, the nation.
You know what?
The time that they're doing all these clips and all these talk show, put out things, their excerpts, you know,
sometimes
of the unity that we had back then.
Sometimes I get the impression that the PNC people are so ashamed to talk about Burnham, or they are afraid to talk about Burnham because of what the PPP would think of them.
Because they're reformed party.
Burnham has done more for Guyana than any other leader. And that's a fact, right? That's a fact. Almost look at the things that were built under Burnham's presidency, right? Look at the things that were built under Burnham's presidency, the highway, whether quarantine, whether Linden, look at the Torani and all the boats and the transportation and look at all the schools, look at the multilateral schools, look at every single thing still there today. Still there today. Save and except in 1992, these Katahars, these Kohis, these Chamars, when they got into office, they got rid of free education at the university level. They done with it in 1992, done with it. So for 23 years, students, young people had to struggle to go to the University of Guyana. Struggle. Just imagine if they would have had access to free university education for those 23 years that were wasted under that corrupt, demonic PPP regime. Look, my blood is boiling, Crawford. My blood is boiling. Please, sir, let's go back to this guy, Kit Nascimento. We'll be right back.
And Burnham saw them, or learned, that the Indians were making rice flour. We make our bread and our roti from wheaten flour. Where do we get it from? We import it. He came home with this idea in his head that we should ban importing wheat and make rice flour. He was pilloried for that.
Let me stop you there, because you're going in a direction that I'm uncomfortable with. I wasn't close to Burnham, and the way you are, and
you don't like Burnham, and you criticize him.
No, I don't.
Quite strongly.
I don't, and I will give my reasons now.
But I didn't come here to debate you on Burnham.
I know. Okay. I just wanted to say that.
But you did ask.
What?
Look, I don't really see eye to eye with that guy Kit Nascimento, but I just love that part. And let me look at some of the comments of our listeners, man. Don't you just love how Kit Nascimento put that guy in his place on that Tin and Cup show? On that Tin and Cup show. That was beautiful. Well said. Well done. Freddie had nothing else to say. And that is where you see Freddie in the category of an intellectual midget. Well said. Mr.
Mark,
Crawford, you go ahead now. Take over.
Anybody who is over 50 years of age would have had an education or would have been educated under Mr. Burnham. And you know the level of education we had back then. So you could, a Freddie Kissoon is nothing but plain ungratefulness and just a rotten human being. He was educated under Mr. Burnham, but yet he didn't know the man. Everything was out there. Burnham wasn't a president that was hidden. He was a president who would put on his long boots and go down a muddy dam and look at the rice field situation. He would go into the markets, like you said. He would go to people's home. So you see how conveniently they're twisting these things to misinform the people who follow them. And not until they can become honest. Barry Jackdale, he was educated under Burnham's rule. But what had happened when they got into office and power, they started to look at how they could restructure the system where it would be an elite system.
Not elite. Not elite. It can't be elite with a Jack Day and an earphone, man. Those people are not elitists.
Well, the implementation,
they're not qualified to be elitists. They're not bright enough to be that.
The implementation of the caste system where only a selective few would be able to pay for university to have university education. So you'll have a blockage up to a point, and then the top 1%. And that system has worked so far because once you can propagate that you're a university graduate, people tend to believe many things you're saying, and thus was able to grow the caste system here in this country. And it's been successful. Had it not been successful, we wouldn't have the racism that we're seeing in today's society. So until we start to produce, work that was done under the PNC back in the 70s, the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and mid 90s, including Mr. Jagan's presidency, we are shortchanging the nation where the facts are going to be thwarted. And, the PNC is being blamed as not a competent, wasn't a competent government. Let alone we didn't have the finance to do a lot that we are seeing today, but we did have proper improvements. And we had a country where people were comfortable, loving.
Lots of improvement, Mr. Crawford, lots of improvement. Today's article, Freddie wrote today, and this is the headline, and I had to laugh. This is not about Freddie. We just passing through because, you know, when you just go to the latrine, you just pick up a paper and you just pass through stuff. So we're just passing through all the filth. So Freddie's headline basically is, it says here, African Guyanese must know their leaders are cowards. So everything African leaders are bad. They're this, they're that. And if these African leaders are supposed to start criticizing so-called Indian leaders, then Freddie's going to get upset and say that the African leaders that he's talking about are racist. But let me just remind Freddie that during the days when the PPP and their hooligans threw filth, mess, number 2 in his face, he's trying to deny that it's not. It was the very African leaders who went after to protect him, to defend him. And for many years, it's the very African leaders that he's criticizing now, whether it's a Lincoln Lewis, whether it's a David Hines, and others. Well, I don't know if he has me down as an African leader, but you know, he has these sort of descriptions for people like us who stand up against the dictatorship in the PPP. But it is us who went to his rescue. It is us who defended him all the time. It is us who put our lives on the line for him. It wasn't that Freddie was brave. Freddie pretended to be brave because he was surrounded by us. The very so-called term that he's using as African leaders are cowards. He depended on us for his security. He depended on us to stay alive all those years. And I recall when the police picked us up on Cemetery Road, he denied that he was even there. He said, no, I wasn't with Mark. I wasn't. So he wanted to leave me alone to go in the Brigham lockups. But little did he know that I said to the police, it was a police inspector named Kisoon and another one named Das, who the PPP transferred right away to Borbies because of that incident. I said to the police, no, Freddie was there with me because Freddie think I stupid. I going in Brigham lockup all by myself. He got come with me. So for 3 days and 3 nights, we were in Brigham lockups. And who was there protecting and defending Freddie? It was the same set of people that he's calling African cowards and all these sort of things. Because Freddie was crying in Brigham lockups. Freddie said he's done, Mark, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. You know, we sat there like brothers. I protected him. He was crying. He leaned on my, well, not on my shoulder, but I kind of like nurtured him. I had to counsel him. I don't know what he would have done if I was not there to counsel him and all these sort of things. Sorry, I get a bit carried away telling that story. But one of these days when I write my book, that is going to be 2 chapters is going to be spent about
Freddie?
Not Freddie, about the struggle and how some people were really pussycats.
Mark.
Freddie wasn't no brave cat in this struggle at all. He was the scariest of all. He was so afraid of his own shadow that we had to escort him at his doorstep to watch him go in. And then we had to take the chance to drive off because we were kunumunus. But yet a day like today, he has the nerve to say that, what is he saying? African Guyanese must know their leaders are cowards. What a goddamn shame. Go ahead, Mr. Crawford.
Mark,
go ahead.
The people who writes in the newspapers are an extension. They spread knowledge, and it's an extension to where one goes to school and have the correct textbooks. Writers for the newspapers should know that every day that they write articles in the paper, they're educating the nation. They should be the ones that has the fortitude to be honest and call a spade a spade. So things like the utterance of what Freddie is saying is garbage. He doesn't have the integrity and the honesty to speak the truth as an almost 70-year-old individual, to educate the nation or remind the nation of what took place and how honestly, honestly, how the events came down. So these are guys, when they're calling people cowards, they are the bigger cowards because they're supposed to be honest and contrite with their articles in the news, but yet you don't see those things. You know, a similar thing when you use a textbook in school. You want to have the correct information so you can, go forward in life with the right information. The
Look,
newspapers serve as an educator for the nation. That's why it's in circulation on a daily basis. So when these writers are being biased, it pushes the nation to one side of the axis, and they're the ones who are helping to spread the propaganda
that is why
and
that
the
is why we
division.
gotta counter it back. They don't like how we countering, and some people are asking me. It is true. Look, the police put us in two different cells. Let me give this quick. Police put us in two different cells. We were picked up for because I called him on the scene and said that he got to help out with the garbage situation on Mandela Avenue, and they started a cemetery road, and the PVP were calling that dump site Mandela dump site. I had reason to speak with then Mayor Hamilton Green and told him that it's an I-pass to name a dump site after Mandela, and they stopped calling it the dump site. But we blocked the road. I blocked the road. Freddie ran. I gave him $500 to go get or $1,000 to go get a padlock. So by the time he came back with a padlock, the police already got me. And when Freddie was coming, he turned away when he saw the police. So I'm not going in break down lockups all by myself now. I spent 5 years in Camp Street while Bino, another one run away and left me. Freddie running away and left me no way. I said, Freddie, I said to the police, yeah, I'll get Freddie. Freddie was with me. Freddie said, no, I now come. I said, you now come, you're going in breakdown with me. Anyways, we were in breakdown and they put us in the same cell. But like they got orders to remove us from the same cell and divide us, right? So after I was in 2 cells away from Freddie, Freddie was in a cell with a guy for high sea piracy from Forbes. 2 guys he was in a cell with. And so he started to bawl out, Mark, where are you? Where are you? I said, I'm down here in this cell. You there with anybody? I said, yeah. I said, you with anybody? He said, yeah, I there here with more the man. I said, all right. Tell the police to put me back in the same cell now. Freddie was afraid. But this is a Freddie talking about African leaders are coward. I called a police officer. You got to yell because, I'm accustomed to those things by now, by then. And so I called the police and the police came in and he begged, oh, officer, put me back in it. So we went back in the same cell and everything. And Freddie was so happy. Freddie was so happy. But thankfully, if I was probably a member of the peanut butter crew, Freddie would have been history thereby. Just Freddie and I alone in a cell. I don't know what he was up to, but certainly that's not my cup of tea. Freddie, that's not my cup of tea. But he cried like a baby and he pledged that he's done with the struggle, all because of 2 nights or 3 nights in the lockup. But yet he has the audacity to call or describe African leaders as cowards. Give me a goddamn break, man. Of all person, Freddie, cowards? You're calling us cowards? Mark, were you there? I said, Freddie, there was a policeman loan us his phone to use. Freddie's going to shout and call, where the police? Let me your phone again now. He know not my lockup. He know not my struggle. But let's move on here now. Let's move on here. This is what I want to talk about. Yeah, sorry about that. Look at this. Timeline for RSS review of Bascom allegations extended. They've extended the timeline on this. That is because they're not getting anywhere. Following some issues. You see what is some issues they're talking about? It is because they deliberately did not present Mr. Bascom, Sergeant Bascom, to be interviewed by the RSS officer. Let's get your take quickly on this matter here, sir.
Mark, once is something against the government or what's going to expose the government's connections to donors and high-stakes players, you're going to find all sorts of excuses. Again, the country caters to the powerful citizens, and it does not pay any mind to the normal citizens, the ones who are only used at election. That's when their value comes up. And after election, they are not needed. And that's what happened. Once you're connected with the system will work for you. It's not supposed to be that way, but that's how it works. And when one speaks out against the system, he or she becomes a victim. it's just the nature of the beast. And the citizens have to look at the way the country is behaving, their leaders, and start to arrest those powers. We need to be the ones who can be comfortable knowing that our system is fair across the board, and we're not seeing those things.
We're certainly not seeing it. They're not going after the people who they have to go after. We still have these people pomposetting and describing themselves as prominent businessmen and all these things. And I don't know what the journalists or reporters are doing in Guyana. All these matters are just allowed to slip through the crack. I don't know. And
that
then
is,
there's another. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
That is what I was just telling you about. The reporters. You see, our newspapers serve as a daily guide in our lives. We read the news. We understand who, if there's sales in a market, if there's danger in a particular area, if there's beautification, if there's education opportunity. All these things the newspapers serve as a daily guide. So when you're not having an honest penmanship, you're being misled. And all you're seeing is one-sided story, or things are thwarted, and you're led to believe this is how it is, and that's what causes the problem. The truth, the honesty is suppressed.
All right,
and that is where our writers are failing the nation.
The question is, do we really have writers, real writers? We have
that's another problem.
So emotional men who cry, men who are thin-skinned. They cry too often, and they just don't know what side they're on. If you check in terms of my track record, I've always been consistent. I remain consistent. I might not have been perfect all along, but I remain consistent, because consistency in this struggle is what matters. And when people pretend that they are consistent, or pretend that they're fighting for the people's rights and all these things, but behind closed doors, God in heaven knows what sort of brown paper bags they're collecting, or who may have made a phone call to them to sweet talk them, and they simmer down on issues, for example, current affairs issues and these things. It doesn't happen. Nobody knows that. People should know by now they can't call me and sweet talk me about anything. I don't care who they are, whether they're so-called prominent businessmen, whether they are so-called businessmen who are on the extradition list, should have been extradited to the U.S. a long time ago, and they just can't get by me with their BS. Look, there's a listener who is saying here, Mark, what is the position with the petition at the CCJ? Well, look, let me say this. This matter should come up for hearing pretty soon, and the CCJ should be making their decision pretty soon, because it is long overdue. It is the same CCJ that argued that they don't understand why the courts in Guyana are prolonging with matters such as elections petitions, that they ought to be heard expeditiously. But this is the same CCJ is dragging its feet on a decision that pertains to the elections petition that should have been made a while now. But I hope that they make that decision pretty soon. Mr. Crawford.
Look, the election petition from our courts to the CCJ, it's been treated as though it's just a normal case. And again, the people of Guyana are the ones who are suffering, who have been disrespected by the highest courts. This is something that should have been resolved so people can come back down and be unified and move the country forward, especially when you're having cost of living that's gone through the roof. You have the COVID situation. Unemployment opportunities are not there for investment. But sometimes the ones that we place our hopes on, they get in there, or they're up there, they talk the talk, and then when the screen is off, it's to hell with everybody else. And the whole nation is suffering because our court system has not gone on to put priority on something that has divided the nation and are putting people's lives at risk. And the longer this thing goes on, it has the potential to be very volatile. and innocent people are going to get caught up with this thing. I don't know if the trusted elements in seeing that the laws are respected are not conscious or don't care what happens at the bottom of the ladder. This is where our leaders need to come forward on a daily basis and talk about these things. That is why we are part of the international organizations. You know, you are holding down clarity on an election, but here we are finding loans and all these things. What happens if the loans are not garnered for the right reasons and the government of the day is deemed illegal? What happens to all these responsibilities? The taxpayers get stick with the bill again. So our development are hampered again. So where do we go? When do we grow?
As always, our development always hampered under the PPP regime, the apartheid PPP regime. Mr. Crawford, I just looked at a comment here from Dilnay Cadogan. Is saying the opposition needs to rally the Guyanese in front of the courts on a daily basis to get a speedy. The opposition just doesn't know how to do that. They just don't know how to put boots on the ground. I recall that there was a situation in Trinidad and Tobago, and several folks I've contacted to say, hey, you've got to protest in front of the PM's office. You've got to protest. And just imagine if you have a couple of people protesting in front of the CCJ there, because remember, the CCJ just serves purpose of maybe 3 or 4 countries, a couple of small islands and Guyana. All of the other countries or islands don't give a damn about the CCJ. The CCJ headquarters is in Trinidad, and not even Trinidad and Tobago is part of the CCJ. I don't think Barbados is part of the CCJ and all these different things, but Guyana.
Isn't that strange?
It is very strange, but I would have had, and maybe Mr. Aubrey Norton is watching. If he's watching, get 10 persons in front of the CCJ by tomorrow and ask them to expedite this, the matter. Make their decision as quickly as possible. If not, persons should send emails and call the CCJ and say, look, we are awaiting. We want the results to be out in terms of the court's decision. We want to hear. We shouldn't have to wait a month or 2 goddamn months for this here. Shame on the CCJ. Shame on them. Even though I suspect, I'm not going to put my head on the block, that they are going to rule against Anil Nandalal. They will rule against Anil and the PPP. If they don't rule against Anil and the PPP, I will purchase a ticket, or somebody probably purchase, who knows, but I will be in Trinidad in front of the CCJ protesting for 2 goddamn days in front of the CCJ. Because if they rule against the coalition, in essence, they're ruling against the people of Guyana, because there's no way, absolutely no way the coalition should lose that case that we are waiting a decision on. And if the CCJ rules against the coalition, it simply means it's time for us to say that's it, goodbye to the CCJ, that they're not serving in the best interest of Guyana. But let's go to this issue here. On a day where African Guyanese should have been celebrating and be proud as a people, this Nimakaram, this idiotic individual whose dad makes over $70 million in less than 2 years, he sent a letter to Ipadaji to submit all financial records within 5 days. Who the hell are you that these people got to submit financial records within 5 days? Get the hell out of here. Just imagine these crappos sprang into office under questionable circumstances and want to talk to people anyhow. Who the hell are these people? It's just like Anil Nandalal said to GCOM. What the heck he said to GCOM? He wants GCOM to provide voter fraud evidence. Evidence, APNU, AFC, voter fraud evidence. And now this little Paku comes up and requesting that this African organization must present their financial records within 5 days. Who the hell are these crappos, man? Crawford?
Mark, from my understanding, it was a directive. And but what was failed to be addressed is that there is a yearly financial record that is being given on every year of this organization. So they would have had the financial records for the prior years. So, but from my inside source is that there was a directive issued to Charles to ask for those things. I don't know how true it is, but that's as much as I would, be able to say on this particular matter at this juncture until further information comes in.
I don't know. These guys are so power drunk. These guys are so silly. These are the guys who move around with death squad individuals and folks questionable characters and all these manner of things, and they want to pretend to be decent. Decent?
Mark, you know what's shocking? Take Charles Ramsden for Junior, for instance. He has some oil and gas knowledge.
What knowledge? What knowledge, sir? What knowledge?
I think he had some
a crash course. A crash course.
Oh, but here my point.
No. A crash course. Crawford, we're going up the road right now.
No. Yeah, we can go the road. I mean, it's. Let me just point it out. Let me just point something out to you.
Babysitting.
Let me point something out to you. You have Ben, who has infrastructure knowledge. You have what's his name?
Infrastructure knowledge from where?
Hold on, Egil. I don't know where he's at, but if you look at what's going on here,
all placed. One second, Mr. Crawford. What knowledge Ben has? What knowledge Ramsden has on oil? What knowledge Ben has on infrastructure? And you were about to say Bishop Egil? What
no,
knowledge?
I'm just showing you something. Here we are in a development stage, and you have ministers who are placed purposely in the wrong ministries. Are they being put there by mistake, or are they put there by intent? Because if you put somebody that doesn't have any knowledge about operating a machine, or a sewing machine, you can expect them to be sewing clothes when they know about cutting cane. So these are things that we have to look at the nation. Why were these folks placed in ministries, to head ministries that are totally out of character for them? I mean, you may disagree with me on this point, but every day that goes by, it costs the country, the taxpayers, money, and it puts
us billions of dollars.
Right, and it puts us in a lot of stress as a nation. Our healthcare for handicapped children, we can't provide healthcare and all this stuff. So these are things that we have to wonder why educated folks would be allowed to be pushed around instead of being valuable to society. They are square pegs in round holes. So why are they there? What is the value for their input?
Why educated folks? Because there is no evidence that most of them in the PPP hierarchy are educated. There's no evidence about that. Listen to them speak every single day. Where is the evidence that most of them are educated? Where is the evidence?
Well, they got a lot more certificates than I do,
Have you listened to Ben speak? When last you heard Rohi speak? When was the last time you heard Gail Teixeira speak? When was the last time you listened to a Bishop Egil or even a Irfan Ali, or even the guy that can't pronounce Kenya, that's a Kenya, that made a mockery of himself in front of the Caribbean Court of Justice? Did you see how the justices were looking at him with disdain?
Yes, I watched the program.
Educated men and women are you talking about, Mr. Crawford?
Look, these guys get all these certificates on the wall. For me, I don't have those certificates. But I'm just going to what they're advertising out in public. I'm just a regular guy,
Look, I used to tell people that I was a black belt in karate, but I just wore a black belt. I never went into no karate. So these people are just like when I used to tell people I'm a black belt and take out my black belt and show them. It was no karate belt. These people, I don't even know what certificate they get. I don't even know where Bishop Edgell went to school, or Ben, or these guys, or Rohi and these guys, or Gail Teixeira and them, or Irfan Ali. To this day, we don't even know where Irfan Ali went to school. If at all he went to school, who wrote his papers for him? Who did his exams for him? We don't know. But from how he sounds and the way he behaves, we can assume that he didn't do anything on his own. On that note, Mr. J.R. Crawford, your closing remarks, please, sir.
Look, Mark, what we as the people of the nation are should be pushing for, and should let our little voices be heard, is for the petition to be heard ASAP, and also for the government to start to have dialogue with all these spending proposals that we don't know where the money is coming from and how are we going to pay it back, and in what time frame. And at the same time, steps must be taken immediately to arrest the cost of living. We are still paying $5.42 a gallon for gasoline, when the rest of the world has reduced their gas price per gallon by about $2. Why can this administration do something to ease the financial strain on the motorists? What about the cost of sugar? Basic stuff for our citizens. $20,000, $30,000 a week for a basic individual wouldn't or can't go anywhere in the markets. How are the poorer families surviving? Are they showing any care and concern? And at the same token, the people who do support this organization have to draw a line and says, you know what? Enough is enough. I may not like the coalition, but if I continue to vote for the PPP, I am endorsing my own sufferment. Is that something we want to do as a nation? They need to be brave enough to step away. Stop attending these promising meetings where the PPP are holding, saying, hey, we are doing this, we are building this road. People don't eat laterite and stone. They can't feed their kids with that. No one is trying to talk about bringing down the price of sugar, simple sugar for the nation. How are you telling us about a caring government or a one Guyana? These are the things that the citizens need to say, you know what? Racism is putting all of us on a hardship. We need to come together so we can have a louder voice and hold the politicians responsible, if need be, whatever course of action, to get things done so the nation would benefit from their electoral process of where they elected people, or in this case, selected people, and they are abusing the majority of the nation. We are seeing people just electing somebody or selecting somebody or supporting somebody to brutalize them and their family. Does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense at all. Crawford, is always a pleasure to have you on so that we can chit chat. I just took umbrage with the fact that you described those men in the PPP as educated men.
No. I know you're going to get tested, but listen to the fact.
Yeah, they're not bright guys.
No, what I'm saying, they purport.
One second, they are flatfoot hustlers. Somebody mentioned Bishop Edgell. I don't know what school he went to get a degree in theology or whatever it is, but I just want to remind them about the Bible. And if Bishop Edgell is watching tonight, it says in 1 John chapter 4, verse 1, beloved, believe not in every spirit. Believe not every spirit, I believe something like that, but try the spirits, whether they are of God. Because many false prophets are gone out into the world, and we can say that Edil is one of those, based on how people feel about him. He's just one of those. With that, we
Mark,
just say,
before you go,
we've
there is a method to my madness.
go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
There is a reason why I called the names and the ministries. It is up to the people to continue to support the square pegs and round holes. They wouldn't be having any benefits. And also,
we've got to go, Mr. Crawford. We've got to go. You know,
this is an option for the coalition to speak on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and let's leave by not forgetting that the coalition also had some square pegs in round holes.
Yes,
right?
I have always been outspoken about that.
Vagabonds
It's not that I beat the PVP or you beat the PVP. We spoke about it across the board.
These vagabonds in office all of them are square pegs in round holes. But
Right, so that's why the people need to hold them accountable.
But Mr. Crawford is
coalition or PPP.
It's always a pleasure.
The people's first.
It's always a pleasure to have you on board with us, sir.
Good night, and good night to everyone.
We appreciate it. Give my regards to yeah. All right, J.R. Crawford there for us, talking about educated men in the view. Ben is sailing. Ben can't even sell dog food. Clement Rohi can't even read and write properly. Irfan Ali, 19 fraud charges. Of course, they rushed to the court so that the court wouldn't be able to hear it and all manner of things. And these are leaders. I want Freddie Kissoon to talk about them now. I want Freddie Kissoon to insult them now. I want Freddie Kissoon to attack them now, because there are lots of wrong things happening now. And the question is, obviously suspicious, as to why is Freddie Kissoon turning a blind eye on these atrocities. I wonder why. I wonder why. We can all assume why, but I wonder why. For now, we've got to go, though. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. Condolences on the passing of former Minister of Foreign Affairs, one of the best in Guyana. We're not seeing any these days at all. We're not seeing them. But this guy was one of the top ones in Guyana. He has passed away. Mr. Rashley Jackson. Condolences to his family members, his friends, and his colleagues in the PPP. Oh, before we go, I saw this here. AFC still to decide whether it will contest local government elections with APNU as a partner. Give me a damn break. If AFC wants to go ahead and contest again, they're going to get licks like peas. The AFC guys got to stop confusing the situation, you know. They got to stop confusing the situation. They just have to stop it. Gosh, y'all pray for apartheid Guyana. I've got to go now. God bless you all. God bless that beautiful country. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you right here again. God bless you.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself. Shots. Watch it. Tear gas. Light rounds. Also, I can see that.
Justice for Quentin!
The man is a boxer, man. Why can't I put in a boxer, man, to do that?
But since my cousin there, you know you come up the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? You know you come up to the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, that we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all get visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker?